All right, let's dive into this explainer. If you've ever looked at a massive warehouse floor and wondered how the humans, the robots, and the miles of conveyor belts don't just constantly crash into each other, well, you're about to find out. Today, we're unpacking the warehouse execution system. It's the critical software layer that acts as the ultimate conductor in the chaotic symphony of modern supply chains, keeping order fulfillment moving without missing a single beat. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the modern warehouse challenge, meet the execution system itself, dive into the core features and benefits, talk about overcoming implementation challenges, and finally, wrap up with some best practices for success. So let's kick things off with part one, the modern warehouse challenge. $340.2 billion. That is literally just the projected U.S. retail e-commerce sales for a single quarter, Q2 of 2026. This massive, relentless wave of demand is pushing facilities to add automation at a breakneck pace. We're talking more robots, automated storage, and complex handling systems than ever before, simply just to keep up with consumer expectations. But here's the crazy part. You'd think throwing more robots at the problem would automatically fix it, right? Actually, no. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reported a shocking 7.4% decline in warehousing and storage labor productivity between 2019 and 2024. It was the largest annual decline among all service-providing industries they studied. It's a total paradox. More tech, but somehow less output. So why is that happening? Well, it basically boils down to this. More moving parts mean more dependencies. It's like a giant, high-speed puzzle. If a picker finishes early, or a tote gets stuck at a packing station, or an autonomous robot just stops in its tracks, you get this massive domino effect of delays. The resulting chaos absolutely proves that traditional, rigid, manually planned ways simply cannot handle a modern warehouse. When everything is interconnected, one tiny hiccup stalls the whole shebang. Which brings us right to part two, meet the execution system. Amidst all that automated chaos, your operation has to answer one absolutely crucial, deceptively simple question, second by second. Which task creates the most value right now? Is it moving that urgent, high-value order, or is it clearing a huge backlog at packing? The answer literally changes by the second. Enter the solution, the Warehouse Execution System, or WES. This is your dynamic traffic cop. It's the operating layer that coordinates all these complex workflows. It sits right between your broader business planning systems and your physical equipment controls. It essentially translates your priorities into real-time, executable work for both humans and machines, balancing everything perfectly instead of forcing anyone to follow a stale, outdated plan. Okay, let's clear up the alphabet soup of supply chain software, because this is where a lot of folks get tripped up. You've got your ERP asking the big picture questions, like, what does the wider business require? Then your WMS, the warehouse management system, looks at inventory and asks, what work needs to be completed today? But the WES? The WES is the orchestrator. It decides exactly when those tasks should enter the operation, asking what should happen next. Finally, the WCS tells the actual machines how to do it. They all play a part, but the WES conducts the symphony. And it does this in a continuous, endless loop. Fresh data flies in from the floor, priorities are instantly calculated, tasks are released at the exact right pace to prevent traffic jams, and the results feed right back into the system. The WES is constantly recalculating on the fly. If a carrier cutoff is approaching or inventory is suddenly late, boom, the system adapts instantly. Let's move right along to part three, core features and benefits. Think about traditional manual planning. Urgent jobs literally sit around waiting for a supervisor to rebuild huge batches of work. It's incredibly slow. A WES, on the other hand, uses dynamic task management. It will change the sequence of tasks multiple times in a single shift based on what's actually happening on the floor. This drastically speeds up order fulfillment and makes sure your extremely expensive robots and human workforce aren't just sitting idle waiting for instructions. Now, to be fair, not every single warehouse needs this level of firepower. But for industries like e-commerce, manufacturing, retail distribution, 3PLs, and healthcare, it is an absolute game changer. Why? Because their crazy operational complexity, tight shipping deadlines, and volatile daily demand make manual coordination practically impossible. If you're balancing people and complex automation in these fields, you need a WES. But of course, installing a new brain into your facility isn't always easy. Let's look at part four, overcoming implementation challenges. We see that 56% of supply chain organizations expect to boost their innovation investments. That's great, but here is the reality check.
buying the initial software license is just a tiny drop in the bucket of the total budget. Implementing a WES requires serious network upgrades, rigorous testing, process redesigns, and dealing with temporary operational disruptions. It is a major commitment. To protect that massive investment, you've got to avoid some really common pitfalls. The absolute biggest trap: ignoring how this new system integrates with your existing ERP, WMS, and your robots. If two different systems think they are the boss of the exact same task, you are in for a diagnostic nightmare. You also can't underestimate scalability. You have to test for your absolute peak, craziest days, not just an average sunny day volume.
If you take nothing else away from this, remember this point. Automation exposes weak processes incredibly quickly. If your master data is a mess, your replenishment rules are terrible, or your floor is just laid out poorly, adding automation will literally just make those mistakes happen at lightning speed. You have to simplify and fix your processes before you automate them. All right, let's bring it all home with Part 5, Best Practices for Success. A killer deployment doesn't start on a computer screen. It actually starts on the physical floor. Step 1 is walking the floor to map out where work constantly waits. Step 2 is integrating those platforms and clearly defining who owns what before any coding happens. Step 3 is nailing down the right metrics. And Step 4, which honestly is so often skipped, is training your team on how to handle the inevitable exceptions, like when a machine totally breaks down or inventory just vanishes. Speaking of metrics, please don't just stare at a dashboard full of raw task counts. You need to assign clear owners and response thresholds to revealing operational KPIs. We're talking about order cycle time, queue age, and exception recovery time. These metrics actually tell you how work is flowing across multiple complex processes, rather than just how fast one specific station happens to be churning. And as this industry quote perfectly captures, a WES implementation is never completely static. You are not done on launch day. SKUs change, customer demands shift, you buy new robots. The goalposts are always moving. Continuously reviewing your rules and tweaking your logic has to become a normal part of your management routine. Otherwise, your operation will quietly degrade into inefficiency over time. At the end of the day, getting the fundamentals right allows your WES to act as the perfect connective tissue between your high-level planning and the physical reality of your warehouse floor. But it leaves us with one vital question to consider about the resilience of your own facility. When a sudden, massive delay hits the floor, will your systems just sit there waiting for a stale plan, or are they ready to dynamically recalculate what happens next? Think about it.